Okay, we are 4 months into the basement grow, and I have some thoughts I wanted to share. Maybe the first thing that I've noticed, which from a cost standpoint is going to make a huge difference to anyone who's watching and considering this, is that I've tried, let's see, 5 different types of LED lighting systems, all the way from very expensive, the diamond, to the least expensive, which is the Viper Spectra. And I can tell absolutely no difference in all of these grows based on the particular type of LED light that I buy. So my advice to you would be to not spend the top bucks for something like that, because I just really didn't see much of a difference. The only reason that particular plant is so tall is because I let it grow longer. I didn't clip it until very late, and I put my most expensive light on there. But as far as production and ripening and plant vitality, they all did really well. There was no real difference. The second most impactful thing that I've learned is that the first part of the plant's life, I've found that it was good to adjust the nutrient mix, top it off with water every, once or twice a week to make sure it was full. But then the second half of the plant's life, once it's completed its bloom, the nutritional needs of the plant are really not that great. So what I ended up doing was just putting water, pH balanced water in there. So for example, this plant right here has been running on water only for probably a month. It was done blooming, and all I needed it to do was for the fruit to ripen, and it's, looking a little bit rough in spots, but the fruits are ripening and the plant is alive and the limbs are rigid. So it tells me that the plant is doing just fine with only water. So instead of having to continually replace the nutrients, I just sort of let the nutrients slowly run out as I was topping it off with water. And so for the second half of the plant's life, during the ripening stage, it's super easy to maintain these plants and a lot less expensive than I had originally estimated. So that was definitely a big find for me. Let's see, air stones. If you're doing deep water culture, air stones are a necessity. I learned that the hard way. But this plant right here and this plant right here were on the verge of death, and I was able to bring them back to life, and they produced very well for me. I would say that the taste of the tomatoes is not as sweet as the outdoor ones that I have harvested, but the texture is a lot more palatable. It's not nearly as leathery as the ones outdoors. So I need to figure out a way to get these fruits to ripen with a little bit more sweet flavor to them, a little bit more sugar content. I just need to do some research to figure out what I can do to help that. They also ripen much slower than the ones outdoors, but the yield has been astronomically higher than the ones outdoors. The flowers are probably 40% more indoors, but the actual yield, when you take into consideration all of the weather and bugs and things of that nature that have beaten up the plants outdoors, I'd say the yield is 4 to 5 times greater indoors than outdoors. So you're much more likely to get, as long as you treat the water correctly, you're much more likely to get fruit production. So that definitely helps with on the cost side. The cucumbers did really well. These plants you kind of see the size of some of these. I mean, I've already harvested, you know, 70% of what these plants are going to give. I clipped them because I didn't want them growing too big, and I've done this sort of a chained deep water culture where I've got a bucket full of the nutrient mix, and I've got them linked up with a 1/2-inch PVC, and I've got the nutrient blend mix pumped to that tub so that there's this natural flow inside of there, and it has worked out great, because the only thing I need to do is just open the top of that and check the nutrient and pH, adjust it if needed, fill it up, and I'm done. And I could put 4 of these, you know, right along here, I think. I did notice on the cucumbers a little bit of a undesirable flavor when the nutrient mix was at its height. So, you know, ppm of 1400, 1300. When I harvested a couple of those early ones, it was a little, you know, artificial tasting. That's the only way I know how to say that. But for the last month, all I've been doing is topping it off with water. The ppm is now like at 200. The plant is still doing just fine. The remaining cucumbers are doing great, and the flavor is a lot better. So I think next time around what I'll do is start reducing the ppms earlier, and I think I would just, you know, I wouldn't have that initial problem. Alright, what else did I want to say? The lettuce is super easy. All I do is put the nutrient mix in there first time around. I have noticed that some versions, some lettuce plants require a lower ppm. Otherwise you get that brown tip problem, and you just sort of have to play around with it. I have basil and dill growing back there. We did some pickling of our cucumbers, which was excellent. Amy did that. She's the cook of the family. I'm trying spinach down here. This is kind of a funky spinach that I got online. It doesn't really feel great. I haven't tasted it yet, so I would say that's questionable so far. I did a squash plant, but quite frankly I gave up on it. Said other things going on and I didn't keep up with it the way that I should have, so it croaked. And that is it. So I would say this so far has exceeded my expectations for 4 months in. I spent too much on lights. I tried to grow without an air stone in deep water culture, which I found out was a mistake. And other than that, it's pretty simple and pretty effective. Until next time.